Hello there, and welcome to season 1 of my new podcast, The Pretty Chill Podcast. I will be your host, John Dahlgren. I am a documentary filmmaker, photographer, producer of all kinds of podcasts, videos, all that stuff. I do all this from my studio here in Encinitas, California, and I'm just really excited to launch this new project. I've wanted my own podcast for many years now, and as we all know, the stars rarely fully align, and I just felt like this was about as close as I'm going to get right now. So production's been underway. I am just so excited to get going. So what's the Pretty Chill Podcast all about? As I sit here right now, I don't have a one-liner for that. It's kind of been built on a few different inspiration avenues, I guess you could say. Number one being just my love of documentary and interviewing people. Right now, my current workload, I'm not really interviewing. I'm filming other people interviewing other people. And I just really wanted to get back in there and interview people. It's something I really enjoy doing. It's something I feel is one of my zones of genius. And when I go this long without doing it, it's like, what's the action that I can take to do that? So what I want this podcast to be, and it says it in the title, The Pretty Chill Podcast, is pretty chill. It's just a conversation. It should be easy. You should feel like you're just hanging out instead of fire hose of information blasting you. It's more of like a subtle inspiration takeaway. These are little things that I like. I read this book and that put me on this trajectory, or I went to this seminar and that changed my life. Not somebody just selling something or just blasting you with information. So my intention with the podcast, it's light and easy and fun. The guests have a good time. They feel chilled out. I know even some of these guests have guest fatigue, right? They're on a lot of these podcasts and they just go through the motions, and I just want this to be a different flavor. So that is just like my full intention with this podcast. It's just making it fresh and easy and fun, and you can have it on just to take a break, because my life is so busy right now, and all I ask for is just some ease. Just give me something easy, and I'm hoping that this podcast is easy for everybody listening. So once again, thank you so much for joining me on season 1. And as we go forward, I will mix in some solo episodes so you can hear a little bit more about my journey and path and how I ended up here. Hopefully I'll be able to tell some stories in the interviews, but I do want to highlight who's ever in here with me and their stories. And, I have been told that I've lived kind of like this Forrest Gump type of a life where I've just kind of shown up and I've been in just these amazing places with incredible company that I'm like super grateful for. So I just think that the stories of how me and the guests came together are going to be a lot of fun for everybody. So yeah, lots that I'm excited about to share from myself and of course the guest. And I'm also excited to see how the show evolves. Like I had mentioned earlier, I'm just not stressing. It's just going to go whatever way it needs to go. And just fun and easy. That sounds great to me. So once again, thanks so much for joining me on season 1 of the Pretty Chill Podcast. So I guess this is the point where I say, please like and subscribe to the show. I'll be releasing an episode once per week for season 1, which is probably 10 episodes. That's the goal. I'm going to take a break and then release a second season and then repeat that. I have a lot of clients that come in that want to produce a podcast, but it's just like this infinite situation where it's like, oh, I have to produce a show every week for a never-ending amount of time, where I think the seasonal one lands more towards me, where I like a nice beginning and end. So that is the strategy right now. We will see if that changes. But once again, thanks so much for joining. And please enjoy the show. My first guest is a friend of mine here in Encinitas, California, June On. I wanted June to be guest 1 because I felt like he was such a tone setter, mainly in the heart space. This is like one of the most genuinely nice, heart-led community focused, people connecting humans. I mean, I could go on and on. Dudes that I've ever met, like you'll see in the interview that he's one of those dudes that you're just like, well, how many hours in the day does he have? Because he does, you'll hear his wake up time and what he does, and he runs many businesses, but he always makes time for people and connection. That's what he thrives on, and it's just really, really impressive. What he's working on right now, which we'll talk quite a bit about in the episode, is he started this group here in Encinitas, and it's just called the SD group. It started with a group of just a handful of people that got together once a week to talk about their businesses and anything that came along with that. But now it's like ballooned to, I forget the amount, but hundreds of people, I believe. And it's every Friday here in town. And it's just a special group, and June's going to fill us in on that and what makes that so special. So thanks again for joining me on the Pretty Chill podcast, and please enjoy the first conversation with my friend June On. All right, welcome back everybody to the PCP, the Pretty Chill podcast. Here in studio today, a good friend of mine, June On. June, how we doing today?
Doing great. Happy Monday.
Today is Monday, and as we were chatting these last couple of days, planning our shoot, you're like, okay, it's 2:30 right now.
Right.
You're like, 2:30 slot. That's the end of my day. Walk me through your day. What time are you getting up?
Yeah.
And like, what's a normal day like for you?
Normal day, typical day is, and I'll just talk about last night. Every day I wake up at 2:30, regardless if it's a Monday or even a Saturday. I just naturally wake up at 2:30 in the morning. What I try to do is, that's really the only time, because my mind is always racing. So that's the only time it's peaceful.
Mm.
The dog isn't making noise. The wife's asleep. Nothing's happening in the neighborhood. So I meditate. 2:30 to 3, meditate. And then as soon as I'm done at 3 o'clock, then my mind automatically starts to switch on. And so that's when I start having ideas of business. I have a handful of businesses. I do a lot of different projects. So that's when I start working from 3 to 6. And then I go, I make sure I do something difficult, which is jujitsu.
Mm-hmm.
Jujitsu at 6:30 every morning. Teach it, train, make sure I push myself. And that to me it's like active meditation. You really have to be present. So everything I do, I have to, especially with ADHD, which I haven't been officially diagnosed, but the way my mind works, I'm pretty sure. But I have to be constantly active. And so I do jujitsu at 6:30. I teach it, and that's my active meditation. I'll do a quick kettlebell workout and then shower up, dry sauna, and then start my day. And my day is, starts from there. So that's why by 2:30, 3 o'clock, it's a full day.
And you're one of these dudes that it's just like, you tell me about your day, and I'm just like, how do you do it? Like, I feel like, and it could be poor time management on my own. I find that hard to believe because I feel like I schedule things out, but I don't get half the amount of things done like you do. Like, what do you think your trick is to getting all this stuff done every single day?
Be really disciplined. And that's the difficult part. And that's why when I do the 2:30, I make sure I meditate, and I make sure I include my workout. If I don't have that workout in the morning, my day is off. I have to make sure that at specific times of the day, I'm constantly, I stick to it. And then I have the golden hour where I have to make sure that I get a specific project done. But I have to make sure I write it down. I have to make sure that I stick to that time slot.
What's it feel like in your body at like 2:30? Like, what's it feel like in your, like, what do you feel like?
I'm wide awake. That's the interesting thing. At 2:30, it's not like I wake up like, I want a little more sleep. I'm just automatically, it's like the switch turns on. I'm wide awake. So that meditation, and as I said, my mind isn't racing. So that's why I make sure at 2:30 to 3, I meditate. I make sure.
Have you always been like that? Like, just go?
Yeah. Before I used to wake up, 3, 4 o'clock, but for the last 25 years, it has been 2:30.
Wow. That's incredible. So June and I originally met through a friend, and June was, I forget the exact reason. I think our friend was just like, hey, you guys need to meet.
Right.
We had a great conversation, but our first kind of thing that we did together was you invited me to this group that you run here in Encinitas. And I'm sure a lot of people listening are part of a men's group or an entrepreneur group or some sort of group, right? And so I came to the first one I could, and it was special. It was just, I always have a hard time explaining like what I felt when I was there. And why don't you tell us like the origin of this group and like how did it start, and then a little bit about the evolution of it, because it's almost hard to believe how much it's just a crazy situation. And also like, what do you think what's the big deal? Like, right? Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, the group is special. I mean, that definitely is my passion project, but it actually started with Nick, our mutual friend. Yeah. Nick and I had a lunch at Lofty Coffee in Solana Beach, and we were talking about some of the things like what's going on in our day-to-day life. And one of it was, for me, especially coming out of COVID, was that everything was so impersonal. Everything was done via Zoom. Everyone wanted to do FaceTime or Zoom or Skype chat or, whatever it was. And I love that personal contact. And I get it. If there's business to be done, overseas or across the country, it is easy and it's convenient. But that eye-to-eye contact, that's difficult. And so, we kind of wrote down what we wanted out of things. And I wrote down, one is I want to be a pillar of the community. And then two, I want community, which we lacked. And so we both talked about it, and we're like, hey, let's do this. Invite a couple of people. I'll invite a couple of people. No business cards. Let's just have coffee and let's just talk. And so at the time we met at Lazy Acres, and, again, it was, 4 or 5 of us. We just had a conversation, and it was great. The first like 7 or 8 meetups, somebody ended up crying because we were having impactful conversations about personal. We were, and we would talk about business. And so I think that personal connection, people really needed it. And so it kept doubling and doubling. And then at one point, Lazy Acres kept telling us we're being too loud because we were laughing too much. And so they asked us to leave to go outside. And so from there, same thing. And we're still too loud, apparently.
And for those that are listening, Lazy Acres is a grocery store here in Encinitas that has a decent little size, like sitting area.
Right.
So this was the first spot. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. And it just kept increasing. And so what ended up happening though is because of that personal connection that people were making, everyone's businesses started to blossom. Yeah. It just organically. It wasn't even like we were saying, hey, John, do business with me. It was, hey, how are you doing? How is your family doing? And we would connect. And then it would be like you saying, well, June, I have this one issue. Can you help me out? And then it just turns into something beautiful. Yeah. I
remember the first time that I went, I was expecting to just kind of be in the back and all these things, but Nick was like, all right, John, you gotta chat. So I explained who I was. And once the group was able to kind of mingle around or whatever, there was a lineup of people like, hey, I'm starting this podcast. Hey, I heard you need this. I have this friend. Let's chat. And the other thing was like the next step, which was leaving that, being like, oh, I met a bunch of cool people, like, and there's some interest in like working together in some capacity, but like, who knows if that's ever going to work out. These people like followed up and they showed they cared and they were serious. And I had people come in here. I had people like, it was, I
love that.
It was a genuine thing where sometimes you go to these meetings, these social events or whatever, and it's just almost like going through the motions and you're not really into it, but you can tell that at this group, people know their place. It's not like people are trying to talk over each other or they're not greedy or grabby or anything. It's like mellow, which is insane for that many people all in one place. And it's not like you're cracking the whip or running a tight ship. It's just like everyone just kind of falls into place and it just runs so smooth. And I noticed, and I'm not the most outgoing guy, but at the end of that meeting, I can hear somebody else in a completely different work situation than I'm involved in. But I was like, oh, I actually know somebody that cleans gutters from this other guy that so now I'm like making phone calls for this guy.
See,
it was insane.
That's how a community should be. And that's the thing. It's evolved so much because that was, I don't even know how long ago that was, but now we're up to over 350 members.
Wow.
And it keeps every week, 10 new members show up. And it's one of those things where the driver, and it's evolved so much. I give 2 members 5 minutes to talk about themselves. I'll do kind of an opening, but I call it the anti-networking group. And there are places for networking groups, but for the group, completely, I want it to be completely different because it's something I need. And I need something that's organic. I need friends. I need friendships. And so that connection has blossomed, and people are just, again, I see people, now we have a pickleball group, and there's close to 30 members of that. And so I see people doing things outside of work, and they're just happier for that. But then the kind of byproduct, their business is blossoming.
Yeah. What do you think the secret is? Like, what is it about this group that is just working so well?
I think honestly, and I always say it's the people within the group, but the right people show up at the right time if people show up heart-centered. And so for me, I make sure I meet with every new member. It's made my coffee, my day's busy, but I make sure I show them what connection really is. So I really want to get to know you. And, first thing I do, I don't ask you what you do for your business. I start asking questions about you on a personal level. Kids, family, what have you gone through, And then I also I'm an open book. I'll tell you things about myself that personal, that vulnerable. And if I do that and I lead by example, I see everyone else kind of doing it. And it's honestly, I always tell everyone that I love everyone. I really do. And you should see me when I have cocktails. I tell everyone at least 10 times that I love you.
Yeah.
And because it's true. I truly do love everyone. And I see the best in everyone. And and that's one of the most difficult parts about being an entrepreneur for people is that they're so hard on themselves. They're like, oh, I should be here, or they compare themselves to other people. And I always try to tell people, give yourself grace. The fact that you're trying something, give yourself grace, but really love yourself, and you should really appreciate what you've already accomplished. So,
how do you think you arrived at this place of loving everyone so much and wanting this community and this group? Do you feel like something did you have that, was that missing early in life, or is this something you saw somebody else doing that you're like, I want that?
Great question. Good question. No one's ever asked me that, but honestly, it's because I didn't have it. Yeah. So my father, he was an immigrant. So he did the best he could, but it was a very hard childhood just because he didn't know how to navigate not speaking English, coming here and trying to make it. So being raised here by an immigrant father, he just pushed me. It was one of those things where it's never good enough. Just keep going, keep going. And I remember as a kid, even going through that, working. I've been working since I was 6 years old. Dry cleaner, restaurant, maintenance, anything you can think of. And so even in sports, my father never said he was proud of me. But so I always had to figure it out, which is great though. It gave me kind of the tools that I have now to be able to figure things out. But the thing I noticed growing up was I never had support. I always had to figure it out. So as I went through the process, I want to be the person that I didn't have for everyone else. So that's why I'm more than happy. If you call me at 2 a.m, I'll probably be up anyway, but I'll come help you. I want to really help you with whatever your need is. I'll find, if I can't help you, I'll find someone that can.
Yeah. I love that. Are you able to accept support, or how are you in that in receiving support?
Yeah, that's another good question. Great questions. I think I do kind of sacrifice myself a bit and to help other people, because I get so much satisfaction in helping other people. But there are times I have to catch myself. Even my wife is like, hey, maybe take some time, because I overextend myself. But I definitely think that the meditation, the jujitsu, me being active and me actively working on my mind, my soul, and physically has helped me kind of to manage that.
Mm-hmm. So the jujitsu, you run your own spot?
Yes.
Or
yeah, I have a partner here, and we have General Arts Jiu-Jitsu in Encinitas, but I've been doing jiu-jitsu now for 15 years. So
I've never been like a combat situation, but I like a trainer, or never been into any of that stuff, but you just hear this jiu-jitsu is different.
Yeah.
It's just different. How would you what does it do for you?
It's, as I said, it's active meditation. Reason being, because it's a difficult art. It's a difficult sport. If my mind isn't present, I'm going to get choked. or you're going to get hurt. And so a lot of people are like, oh, it's dangerous. It's dangerous. It's because honestly, one, kind of the training environment, but it's also your mindset. You have to really be able to be uncomfortable and be comfortable in uncomfortable situations. And a lot of people, as soon as they're uncomfortable, they fight it and then they get hurt, or they fight it and then they go to sleep. What it teaches you is to get comfortable and then take a minute and be like, okay, someone has my back. It's not the most comfortable situation, but let me get out. I'm okay. And then you breathe a little better and then you figure it out. And if you don't, you just tap and then you reset. But so many people they let their ego involved and then they try to fight it. They fight it and then they get hurt and they're like, oh, see, it's dangerous.
Yeah.
Well, you let your ego get in the way.
Yeah, you always see that if you watch a UFC fight, for example, when someone's on the ground and they're just like in trouble.
Right.
You're just like, how are they not like I feel like I would be like clawing and
right.
They're just breathing. They might take a couple hits or whatever, but they're like just planning their next move. Where the amateur reviewer, me, is just like, right. Oh, there's no way that they're gonna
right.
They're done.
Yeah.
But they just like inch their way and breathe, and then next thing you know, they're bulked up and squared, and it's like, how did he get out of that?
Right. And they relied on the process, they relied on themselves, but they really believed in themselves. And so it transfers over to just general life. I mean, really, if you can't believe in yourself, it's, what's life going to be like? But if you believe in yourself, you've trained hard enough, you've studied hard enough in business, uncomfortable things are going to happen. Speaking in front of, we had 100 plus people at our last Friday. Speaking in front of 100 people, that's not easy for a lot of people. But if you put yourself in this situation and then you get, kind of breathe, get comfortable, it gets easier and easier.
Have you thought of, so the format of the group meetings, is it growing so much that you're needing to like make any adjustments, or do you come in, are you coming in to every meeting with a plan, or what's the situation when you come in on those Fridays?
It's someone else asked me that. The Fridays, I go by feel. Yeah. So I don't come in with an agenda. What I typically do is, because I want to keep it as unstructured as possible, but at least controlled, is that the first 10 minutes I have people mingle. People, it's at good on you. People can mingle, grab their coffees. And I see a lot, and people show up, especially through a long week, you're stressed. Monday through Thursday, you've been working. Friday morning, you should see the faces that people show up with. They're just relieved. They're happy. It's their kind of social hour, and they love that process. And then at 9:10, I'll do updates. I'll talk about the podcast. I'll give kudos for, certain members that have done a lot for the community. And then I give 2 members the 5-minute features where they can talk about themselves. And typically, if you look at some other groups, they'll have everybody speak about themselves. But if you do that, it's going to be 2 hours.
At least.
Yeah, and you're not going to remember.
Uh-huh.
So that's why I limit it to 2 members speaking for 5 minutes. And then we'll have a Q&A about those 2 members. And then the last 20 or 30 minutes, I'll basically, whatever comes to my mind, I'll kind of pose a question, about whether it's business or personal, but I'll typically ask the question that's based off of the 2 features. So if somebody talks about if it's a personal question, they're talking about they had a difficult time, really pushing through, or they're having a hard time, is this what they really want to do? Then I'll pose a question about passion. Are you pursuing your passion in life? Is what you're doing, are you doing it for the paycheck, or are you doing it because you're passionate about it? And then we'll have an open discussion, and we'll have great participation from people. We have a biotech CEO. We also have people that are unemployed. We have small business owners, solopreneurs. So you get different aspects, and you see people and they're like, oh, I never thought about it that way, because you're actually sitting next to someone that you probably normally would never have sat next to.
Yeah. What are you noticing? What are you noticing? Where are we at as a people? Like, what are people dealing with or working through, or things you're noticing from the feedback from the group, or some of the answers and the conversations
It's really, honestly, a lot of the talk has been about passion.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that are extremely successful, but they're not happy.
Yeah.
They're really not. They've been doing something because it pays them well, and they've gone this whole direction for, they could be in their 40s, 50s, 60s. But a lot of them are in a dilemma of like, is it too late to change? And so that's kind of the biggest thing. It's about really, are they doing what they're passionate about?
Yeah. Is the group, is this your passion? Is this?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. This fills my cup. People, even my wife asked me like, aren't you tired or, don't you want to take a break?
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I love this. This is what I look forward to.
Because you have a regular job too.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about your
Ooh.
I don't even want to, I don't know
Sure.
if we say 9 to 5, but like, what do you do as a day job, I guess?
I've got a handful of businesses.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a mortgage brokerage company. I've got a spa in Del Mar. I've also have a consulting company, a VR company in Carlsbad. I also consult for Insperity and doing payroll, HR, and workers' comp. But really, the group's my passion.
So it sounds like, just one of those things that you listed could be enough for one person.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So like going back to the first question, like how do you do all this? Like how are you able to compartmentalize everything? And okay, I'm going from focusing on the work on the spa to now I'm switching over to the VR company to the
right.
more, like how are you able to do all that?
It's it goes back to discipline. The discipline I have at 2:30 in the morning, and also goes back to being intentional about my workouts, because I notice that when I don't have that workout, my whole day the schedule gets kind of thrown off. So I make sure that I balance it out, and certain businesses need the priority for that day or that hour. So I just make sure that I leave room for specific businesses at a specific time. And then the good thing too is having good people around you. I'm great with seeing a business or a concept and creating kind of the business and creating different, alternative revenue sources and business models, but maintaining it, that's definitely not my strong suit.
Sounds like your morning meditation and your workouts, are these non-negotiables for you every day?
Yeah, every day, whether I'm on vacation or not, which I typically don't take vacations. So.
Yeah. Do you have any other non-negotiables for your lifestyle?
I definitely, I'm intentional about the end of the day. So after 6 o'clock, I make sure I eat dinner before the sun goes down. And then, I typically fast, intermittent fast, but my time after 6 o'clock is dedicated towards my family. Mm-hmm. So, my son's at the Naval Academy in Annapolis. So, it's just my wife. I make sure I'm present for my wife.
And then what do you do to like wind down? Are you watching movies? Are you reading books? Are you just relaxing?
Yeah, we'll have relaxing. It really depends, but we'll definitely do our Netflix shows. And then we'll just kind of, we'll when we turn it off before bed, we just have a conversation. We have a conversation about, whether it's about the spa, because my wife does run the spa. She's a colon hydrotherapist, so she runs it as well. So, we'll either talk about that, we'll talk about family, we'll just have a discussion, but I just make sure it's dedicated towards family time.
Where do you think where's the group going? Like what, it's
exciting.
Are you excited
yeah.
Are you more like, this is a beast that's going to keep doubling and tripling, or like,
yeah.
So if someone's listening in a different city and they're wanting to maybe start a group, it doesn't have to grow to as big as the one in here in San Diego, but like, what are some like launching off points that you would recommend if someone wanted to kind of start a group similar to yours?
Yeah. And the plan is to expand this nationally.
Oh, great.
I've gotten contacted by people in Cleveland, Seattle, Vegas, Phoenix, and Denver to open and expand.
Just people that have heard about the group?
I've seen it on LinkedIn,
okay.
Instagram, or they've heard it from a current member and they've asked me to open it. Can I open one there? So eventually I will. The portal's going to be a big help. It was difficult before, but now I think it's going to be a lot easier with the portal. But the biggest thing, really, it's the individual that leads it. It really has to be someone that's heart-centered, that doesn't have a motive to really just push themselves. If they're looking generally or just genuinely to help somebody and help a bunch of people, it's gonna do well. I think that's the secret sauce is really to put your heart into it and try to help other people. And I promise you, if you do that, it's going to pay back.
So how did you get so heart-centered? Were you always like this as a kid growing up, or like, what were you like in middle school, high school? Were you always this nice heart-centered person helping everybody out? Did you ever have like a rough streak?
No, I think I always was like this because of the fact because I grew up so hard.
Yeah.
And so because I wanted somebody to help me, save me, and then I didn't have that person, I just kind of developed into this, I've always been the one to protect people from bullies. And that's always been the case, and that always will be the case. And so for me, I like, especially growing up in Arizona, in Southern Arizona, I was born in Texas, raised in Southern Arizona, as really the only Asian kid in my school.
Yeah, so it's funny. We were getting ready for, I'm sorry to cut you off
Sure.
because I want to kind of introduce something here,
Yeah.
but when we were kind of going over what I want to chat about, all these things in your life, I actually heard you talking on a different podcast about your upbringing and a couple, call them surprises,
Right.
that came about. You mind sharing what all went down?
Yeah. So my father and mother, they fought in the Rock Army with this South Korea's military, and they fought in the Vietnam War. And so what was happening was they were giving out visas if you fought for the U.S. And so they did, and so they both got a visa to come to the U.S. It was about to expire, so they came to, I don't know why they picked El Paso, Texas, but they picked Texas. That's why I always tell people, I joke around that that's the reason why I'm so tall, is because I was born in Texas. Everything's bigger in Texas.
Yeah.
So I was born there, but my father, he didn't speak English. And so my mother took off. And so my father, he didn't speak English, but he worked on a construction site. And so he spoke to a foreman that was on there and said, hey, I have an infant son that's just born. I need someone to watch. And so the foreman said, well, my wife can do it. So, I was, the foreman's wife kind of raised me, took care of me. And then one day my father told him, which was pretty soon, right after I was born, and said, hey, can you watch my son? I'm going to go try to find more work. And he said, okay, sure. He didn't realize that my father would leave for 6 years. And so for 6 years, I was raised by this Hispanic family as an infant at birth. And so I was raised thinking I was Hispanic. I was in the Hispanic culture for 6 years. I went to all the parties, did everything as part of their family. And they're an incredible family. They took care of me, but I thought I was Hispanic. And then all of a sudden my father shows up. And so I was scared. I only spoke Spanish, and he barely spoke English. And he was able to pick up Spanish from working on construction sites. But he had started a construction company out in Arizona, came and got me, and I thought I was being kidnapped. So, of course I was crying. And
what age was this?
6 years old.
6 years old. Okay.
Yeah, at 6. And so then he took me to Southern Arizona. So from there he spoke to me, which is funny, is he spoke to me a little bit in Spanish, didn't speak English. I only spoke Spanish. And so went to Arizona, and then going to Arizona, there weren't very many Asians in El Paso anyways, but there was none in Southern Arizona.
Wow. And then what was the relationship like with the previous family?
So I was so young that my father, when he moved from El Paso, he disconnected contact with them. So at that point, I haven't had contact with them since I was 6 years old.
You still haven't?
I wish, if you're watching, I would love to get in contact with you. I don't even know their names.
Is that something like I love these stories of tracking down, the lost parents or something. Is that something you'd ever want to?
100%. Absolutely. Wow. Yeah.
That would be an incredible
That would
story.
be amazing. Because they were good to me. They were really good
sounds
to me.
like it.
So, yeah.
Wow. All right. I'll get you out here on this question. I want to go back to the group. So let's say, everyone's kind of hitting you up and there's interest in you helping grow these other cities with groups. Is this like, what could this possibly look like for you? Could you be taking trips to help nurture and set up groups? Could you be overseeing from afar? Have you been thinking about this?
Yeah. Well, the biggest thing is I've seen the effect it's had on this community here. And so we have people from Tijuana all the way up to Orange County that come every Friday.
Wow.
So we have a dedicated group of people that always shows up. Last week we had over 100 people, and we consistently have had anywhere from 70 to 100 people just show up. It's almost too much for Good On You where we currently have it, but it's a good problem to have. But what I'm seeing is I get messages, and this is what really fills my cup, is that people are like, I've been here for 6 years. I don't have a tribe. I don't have a core group of people. And now they do. And so, and people that say they've worked a certain job for 20 years, but they've always had kind of a passion for something else. This has given them that support to be like, you know what, I'm going to give it a try. And then I'm seeing them make the transition and they're just happier. So for me, I've seen the effect it currently has on people and how it's growing. And that's why it's growing, is people see it. That's why I call it Feel Good Friday. If I can expand this, and I will expand this nationally, to me, that's that many more people that can affect other people. And that's really that community, because the world, I always say the world is the way it is. I mean, there's a lot of chaos right now in the world. And I think because of social media, people have they've had this kind of negative kind of feel towards just kind of society. All you can control is what's around you. And for me, that's the community. And if I can do this and I can duplicate this, it will probably take me traveling to at least get it started.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with that. If I can see kind of the result and I can see it continue to grow, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. It just seems like I don't want to call it a project, but call it a project that would just fill you up. Like,
right.
It feels like you should be paying, you shouldn't be getting paid for something like that, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly. And I always tell people too, it fills my cup, it overflows my cup.
Yeah.
But the great part about when you overflow your cup, that spillage goes into other people's cups.
Yeah.
And it starts to fill theirs up, and then theirs starts to fill other people's up. So I mean, you can absolutely follow your passion, be supportive, be heart-centered, and still make money. And that's the great thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And community is so important. Like I learned that on a project I did with the Blue Zones is just studying what, it's obviously diet and lifestyle and all these things, but,
right.
but everyone always says, well, I'm surrounded by this beautiful community.
Yeah.
And me and my partner, we always kind of half jokingly say, like, well, if we were to move out of here, where would we go? And there's plenty of amazing places, but we're like, we'd leave our community.
Yeah.
Even if it's just a small community,
right.
Like just imagining being dropped somewhere where you don't know anybody. So that's
right.
And I think people are traveling and moving to other places now they're taking these chances to like just mix it up or whatever their reasons are. And now they're transplanted in this place with no community.
Right.
So to have these groups that, assuming a lot of the people are in similar situations, that could be so helpful for so many.
Absolutely. Well, we've actually have a handful of people because of the LA fires.
Yeah.
They've just moved here and they're like, wow, if we would have known that San Diego was like this years ago, they would have moved sooner. And that's the thing, because they know they can rely. And I love the fact that the group has the exposure big enough that now people are starting to seek us out and be like, oh, I need community. Let me join it. And then once they try it, I always tell people, just come to a Feel Good Friday. It's free. Come see what happens. Heart-centered. No intentions. There's actually probably 20% of the people are part of the group just for the friendships, not even for the business. So they come, and then it only takes people one time to try it, to realize, wow, this is different. This is heart-centered. This is what support feels like. And you'll see it. I end the Feel Good Fridays at 10:10, every Friday. People stick around for hours at Good On Ya, just having conversations. They get breakfast. They go for a hike. I mean, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that's so great. And this is what year? Is this like year 2 or year 3 of this?
This is year 2.
Year 2. Wow.
Yeah, coming up on year 2.
Wow.
Yeah, it's expanded. Well, and I posted a picture last January of the group at Market Space. And, at the time we had a good turnout. I think it was like 23 people. And then at the exact same time, the year later, we had 83 people. And you see that picture and you see the contrast. But the great thing is you still see those smiles. You see people that genuinely love being there. And I always tell people too, I'm always going to show up for you. So even if one person, I'm surprised every week of how many people show up. Even when it rains, people show up. There's no roof in the patio area. So typically a lot of times when it does rain, we get rained on. But I'm okay with that. But we still have people that show up. But if one person shows up, I'm always going to be there for you. So I get not shocked. I get pleasantly surprised every time there's 50, 60, 70, 80 people.
I love it. Well, I can speak firsthand and encourage anybody in the area, even if you're in LA listening, come on down. That's a great experience. You also have a podcast, and
yes.
on your way out, why don't you let people know about the podcast and,
Sure.
and if they're interested in like learning more about the group or following you, like how do people get in contact with you?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, if you go to thegroupcoastal.com, everything's posted there. All the social media tags are on there. But it's the Heart of Matter podcast, and it's on YouTube, Spotify. I'm going to put it on iTunes, but still haven't figured out how. So I'll figure that out. I'm kind of figuring things out as we go. But that's been great. It's really, the podcast really doesn't, the only agenda is to have people in the community get to know the person behind the business. Instead of just like, what's the business? It's difficult to really support, because you could go to your local restaurant and just have your lunch there. Might be good. You'll still go there because the food's good, but there isn't that connection. But if you get to know the owner and you understand the trials that owner went through, or their history, and you start to get to know them, and that's a great part about podcasts, is you really get to know somebody's personality. That's what the Heart of the Matter podcast is to really get to the heart of the matter. And
more heart from you.
Absolutely.
That's great. And any other advice to those that are listening about, like, kind of tying it all together about passion? Because I'm a passionate dude as well, and in my life I was like, I want to do what I'm passionate about, and had to really make some sacrifices and some tough decisions to get there. And I know you have too. So like these folks that are 30s and 40s and 50s, is like any words of wisdom about like, it's not too late, follow your passion? Like
it's honestly, it's never too early and it's never too late.
Yeah.
I mean, I think people will put age on it just because of the timing thing. But when you're in your 20s, or even if you're a teenager, it's never too early. I mean, you have to own it. If you believe in something, own it. If you're insecure about, well, I look too young, people don't respect me. Well, if you act that way, they won't respect you. But, I speak to a lot of young professionals that they come in insecure. And then after I speak to them, I'm like, own it. If you own it, and then they'll come back to me, and I love hearing this. They're like, you know what? I got that deal, or I got this connection because, I acted like, and I was like, yeah, sometimes you just have to act. Just act confident, be confident. If you believe in it, just do it and own it. It'll do well. But kind of the advice is, one is I do these coffees every day with people. I do, I started this initiative doing one coffee with someone new every day. It's expanded to 5 just because we have so many new members. But by doing that, I've learned so much about myself. But then I also pick up things. There's certain things that I would never have gotten from a book. I never would have gotten from a podcast. Just speaking to people, I'm like, oh, okay. And so my suggestion is, if you do have a passion, just have conversations with people. Talk about it. See what comes up. And then they're going to give you some advice. They might talk about certain angles that you never thought about, and it may inspire you. And that's the biggest thing, is as human beings and as part of the group, is that really everybody inspires everyone else in there. And so you never know who you'll inspire, and you never know who will inspire you. So just honestly, by following your passion, start speaking to people about it. If you speak it and you own it, it's going to happen.
I love that. And so last question, I'm curious, do you have your own like advisor or coach, or do you basically pull your own, do you basically pull all your wisdom from these conversations that you're having?
Honestly, over the years, the numerous businesses, the numerous projects, the numerous people, I mean, again, except for holidays, I'm consistent Monday through Friday, now 5 coffees a day. So, it's really just being open enough, because I definitely, I have so much to learn. I mean, it's always an evolution. And that's the one thing about jiu-jitsu black belts, is they say that, people think as a white belt, you're learning blue belt, and you are, but you really don't start learning until you're a black belt, because now you understand the concepts. And so for me, I'm very open to just learning, and I listen, just pay attention to someone. Don't have an agenda going into a conversation. Just have a conversation. That you never know what's going to inspire you, what you're going to pick up, but be willing to tap. And that, if you do that, you're going to learn so much more than you're ever going to learn in a book just by itself, or a podcast by itself. It's the combination of just life lessons.
I love that. Yeah. Great advice. All right, June. Well, thanks so much for joining me on the PCP. I don't know how you do it as far as just the energy output, and I think you're just crushing it. It's awesome to watch. Appreciate you so much.
Yeah.
And anybody listening, please follow June and check out all the cool stuff he's doing. Very impressive. And reach out if you want to start your own group, because it sounds like he'll be more than happy to help facilitate. So, yeah, man, that's a wrap. Thanks so much, everybody, for listening. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
See ya.